Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel H&E Life. My name is Dr. Cindy Wong, and today I want to share with everyone things I've learned during my job search this year. Given that it was my first time job searching, for a real big girl job as a doctor, I felt that I really didn't know what to expect or how to proceed when I started, and I thought if I share some of these things that I've learned or I've noticed along the way, that maybe it will help you guys when you want to look for your first job after fellowship, or I guess residency, depending if you want to do a fellowship. So let's get started with the first thing. The biggest thing, the thing that annoyed me the most, I have noticed that a lot of places are almost all places I've looked for, searched for, they're not upfront with the salary, which is like shock. Like to me, that's like, why is that not the number two thing listed on a job search query where, the first thing will be the title of the job search and the second thing be salary followed by descriptor and, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Almost all of the time, the salary is not even included in the job's first initial description. And it's also not something that they will just provide to you up front when you reach out to the job ad, be like, hey, I'm interested in this job. They'll be like, okay, great, send me all this stuff and then we'll get back to you. So they would list, for example, things like seeking an AP or APCP board certified pathologist with 3 to 5 year job experience, and then they'll go on to describe the things that they kind of are looking for in a pathologist. They'll list things like have worked in a high volume center, is good at, communication skills, and is friendly, so on and so forth. And then they'll also list, here are the things that we expect you to do. We expect you to work in like generalized sign out with deep subspecialties, and you'll also have to cover call and blah blah and so on and so forth. But even if you reach the very bottom, they're like, oh, for more information or interest in applying, please, contact blah and blah. Here's their contact information. And nowhere on that whole list does it say how much they will pay you for this job. And honestly, I feel like that is the strangest thing ever, because not to say like, people go into medicine for money, but it's kind of nice to know how much they'll pay you or how much they'll compensate you for you to invest all this time and energy to go and go through the job interview process. Like in my previous video about jobs, a lot of times, especially in academic centers, they'll have you go send everything. You have to write, a cover letter, send all of the information. Then you'll go through one round of screening interviews. And I feel like this will happen even in private community center. They'll do a quick screening interview with a few people, short interviews, and they'll just, get to know who you are and talk about your experience and see if you're like a crazy person or not. If you've passed your screening interview, they'll invite you back for your real interview, and then, you might have to give unknown slide checks and so on and so forth. It's a lot of time commitment. During COVID era, I guess it's okay because, we could do a lot of the stuff over Zoom, but I imagine pre-COVID and post-COVID, whenever that happens, when you start looking for a job, you'll have to start going to places in person. You have to fly to wherever you're job interviewing. So all of this effort to jump through hoops, and only when they want to accept you and give you an offer letter will they include your salary in that offer letter. So you probably have spent hours and days on doing this whole motion, and only then to find out what you'll get paid in this position. And honestly, if you're job interviewing, you're probably not just interviewing at one place, you're interviewing at a couple places. And if you have to do this for every place to find out what salary they're going to offer you, it's a lot of time commitment. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for most people. You don't pick a job without knowing how much you're gonna get paid for it, right? Like I would not imagine anyone, or at least I cannot imagine myself going for a job is like, oh wow, this job is amazing. What do you pay me? Half the average salary that a pathologist should be making. I probably wouldn't end up going there, right? So this is why biggest thing, most annoyance about the job interview process is you have to jump through a lot of hoops before they tell you how much they're gonna pay you. For example, I wish that would change. I hope it change. I hope it changes for you guys when you guys apply for jobs. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay. The next big thing I want to talk about would be, if you want better pay or better compensation, then you will probably find a job that's kind of in a less desirable place. If you want to go to a big city where there's lots of diversity of food, diversity of people, diversity of culture, then you're probably gonna have to settle for slightly not as good compensation. That said, the pay should be enough for you to at least be cost of living in the area. For example, when I was applying, there was this position advertised for Southern Ohio Medical Center or something like that. So this place offered up to $200,000 in student loan stipend and also up to $100,000 in sign-on bonus. And right there, that is like a year's salary, and that's great compensation just to like sign on to do this job, in addition to what your salary would be, and of course the insurance and retirement plans. And on the other hand, at Stanford, I'm not getting any student loan help at all, and my sign-on bonus is significantly smaller than $100,000. If you really want to take, I guess, upfront money in consideration as well as overall salary, the best place is not to look in big cities. It's probably look in small cities, small towns in rural America. And the way I saw it, at least when my husband and I were first discussing about our first jobs while we were residents, we realized we have so much student loans and we want to pay that off soon. We were like, yeah, you know what, maybe for a couple of years we could sacrifice, all the, good food and whatever, and just go to Iowa or something and get higher pay and, live frugally. And honestly, at that age, we probably wouldn't even have to live that frugally because the cost of living is so low. We could pay off our student debts really fast, and then we'll find a job at a more desirable location. Unfortunately, once we both got to this, we both kind of came to this area, and the Bay Area is so amazing. We're kind of like, oh, do I really want to give that up? I kind of don't want to. So you know what? We'll have to change plans. But if you're someone who is looking for that low cost of living, high income, then definitely somewhere in rural central US, or not even central. You could go along the coast. It just has to be in an area that's not as popular. I'm sure there's towns in California that are probably pay would be the same as me staying in the Bay Area, but the cost of living is significantly lower. So even though the pay is the same, given the lower cost of living, you in that sense make more money overall. So the next thing I want to talk about would be, you've looked for a job, you've done a bunch of interviews, and you get offers. And when that first offer come in, don't be like, oh my God, I have a job offer. Let me sign right away. And I have a job, and I feel so great relief. And yes, signing your offer letter does offer relief. It's like, yes, this stage of my life is over. Now I could just like not think about it anymore, because honestly, the job search is like, it's such a brain drained. But I don't want anyone to feel pressured that you have to sign a contract right away. A good place should give you at least a week or two to at least think over your offer letter, read the fine detail, hire a contract lawyer if you need to. And if you feel like the place that's offering you a job and they're like, oh yeah, we need you to sign this by the next day, I would be a little wary. I feel like that's a red flag. There should be no reason where they will demand that kind of like commitment and urgency out of you to sign a job with them. If they are doing that, I wonder is because they're like they feel like they need to pressure you to sign, or you might not sign if you give them long enough consideration. I don't know the situation, but I would say if a place pressures you to sign right away, I would think that would be a red flag. The other reason you don't want to sign right away is because if you've gone on to multiple interviews, this is the time to be like, hey, I have an offer from another place. If you liked me, you should give me an offer soon so I can make a decision. So it's kind of leverage for you to hold off on your very first offer and then email other places and let them know that you already have an offer, and if they liked you as an applicant, that they should, pick up the pace and send you an offer letter too. And honestly, you should not just rush and sign an offer letter. You really need to read that contract from like beginning to end, word for word. And lucky for me, the contract at Stanford was completely written in lay language. Like, I feel like you don't need to be a lawyer to understand what that contract said. So I felt very confident reading it and signing it without a contract lawyer. But there are contracts out there. I had uh, one of my husband's friends got an offer letter, and she was reading this offer letter to us because she was like, I have no idea what this means. I was like, okay, sure, I've seen offer letters. You wanna like, and then she was reading this, and it was just like lawyer language, like sentence after sentence after sentence of lawyer language. And I was like, I have no idea what that paragraph said whatsoever. And so when that happens, you need someone who knows the language to read it and interpret it for you, because a lot of times this is where issues come up. If if this was a job and you love it and you want to stay at it, great. But if you sign this lawyer gibberish contract, and for example in 6 months you decide, oh my god, this job is horrible, this is so malignant, I want to leave, there could be a lot of things in that contract that prevents you from leaving. And I think one of the most important things to look at in a contract is to look for a non compete clause. And what that means is it's basically a paragraph or whatever, a sentence that says, if you leave this company or this hospital or whatever, if you quit this job, you are not allowed to find another job with similar job description as this job within blank miles of this location. So for example, I have heard if you quit this job, you are not allowed to find another job with similar job description or job function as the one you're currently in the 100-mile radius. So what that means is if you were a pathologist and you worked for this company or this healthcare system and you decided, I don't want to work here anymore, that means you are literally forced to move to a new city or even a new state to find a job, because whatever this 100-mile radius is, you cannot find another pathology job there. That will be breaking your contract, and I guess you'd be liable to be sued. So this is why the non-complete clause is very important. And another reason why you should just read everything, because a lot of times you'll sign on, they'll give you like, you'll receive say $50,000 sign-on bonus, and there'll be a hidden clause in there saying if you quit within 3 years of working here, then you have to pay back that sign-on bonus, because sometimes they say it's a loan, a forgivable loan that they give you. So if you work for 3 years, that loan is forgiven. But if you don't work for 3 years, then that loan you need to pay back. So a lot of things in that contract, you just have to make sure you like slow down and read. And then I guess on the similar thing is in terms of looking for jobs and looking at the contract and looking at your salary is how much student loans you have. I think honestly, it should play a big factor into your job search unless your student debt loan's really tiny. For example, my husband and I, we own almost like $500,000 in student debt loan. So for us, that is a huge factor for us when we were looking for our jobs. And for us, we need to make sure that there is a job that will pay well enough for us to put heavily down towards that student debt, as well as be able to save for retirement, as well as be able to save for a down payment for a home that we hope to eventually buy. But at the same time, for me, I was like, I kind of really liked the Stanford job, even though the pay wasn't the best. And I picked it because I was like, okay, well, if I stay there, I still qualify for PSLF. And since I am already PGY5, that means I already have been in this program for 5 years. So another 5 years at a nonprofit would mean I would be able to have my loans forgiven. And that was something that played a big role in our decision making in terms of finding our jobs for my husband and I. It's a lot of things to consider. I'm just like listing things out. This is not an exclusive list, and I am by no means a financial expert. I'm just saying things that I consider when I was looking for a job. And I think that will be it for today. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see everyone next time. Bye!